So normally this is where I tell people how it all works, but you guys look pretty comfortable and everybody's friends, so I think we're probably okay. You are allowed to swear.
Thank fuck.
You want to.
We will try that.
There's
too.
the intro clip.
This month on Kingston Live, Tanya and Céline tell us about video content for musicians with Velours Sessions. We talk to Lowest of the Low about their upcoming Kingston show, and Oakridge Avenue pays us a visit after finishing their album with producer Ian Burton.
There we go. Hello.
Hello. All right.
All right.
Let me. I'll go.
No, you can keep working. I was going to talk about you anyway, so just keep doing your thing.
All right.
I like this sort of informal thing.
Okay.
In fact, I might even just start it there. So, hello, I'm Johnny Sad.
I'm Riley Jabour.
And this is Kingston Live. It's spring, and spring leads to summer, and we've got some festivals coming up. That was like the worst segue ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going with
You
that.
were laughing at me, and I'm like, no, we're going to bring it back. It's okay. No, I did want to talk about festivals because we're going to be doing a special show. We do this monthly. There's going to be 12 shows in the year, but we do have an extra lucky 13th where we're going to cover the summer festival. So we'll be talking about Skeleton Park, Wolf Island, Beer Fest, Blues Fest, Buskers, and even Chris Morris is going to be in probably in the next few days to talk about Back to the Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that one. That's always one of my favorite festivals. For a newcomer, too. Like, it's a new festival, and it's always a great time.
Yeah. I really want to get to Wolf Island this year. I have never actually been to the Wolf Island Music Festival.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that needs to happen.
One of my favorite things about Wolf Island Music Festival is every year there seems to be like an under-the-radar, like you haven't heard of them yet, but trust me, in 3 years they're going to be everywhere kind of band.
Well, and I think that's part of what I've been missing the last several years. Yeah, so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So we're doing something a little different this time. Jay Middaw's here. He's setting up to shoot. Say hi, Jay.
Hey.
Hopefully you guys heard that.
Say it louder.
Hey.
There we
go.
Jay is going to be shooting the interview with our first guests for this show, and we're going to be recording a special musical performance, which actually won't be in the podcast. There's going to be some supplemental content on YouTube, so make sure you watch for that. So I'm actually going to hand things off to Riley Jabour. I'm going to just head out and mind the desk, push some buttons in the back, because we've got too many people in the room, or we're going to have too many people in the room, and not enough podcast-appropriate microphones. So we've only got so many mics and so much room in here.
When you're listening to the podcast inside your head, it's like we've got a giant cavernous endeavor here, but it's one room that we can only fit like 5 guys in tops.
Yeah, it's a decent-sized room, but yeah, it certainly has its limits. So, and with our guests, we have a trio joining us today. And I realized, like, when we had the Wilderness in a few months ago, there's 6 of those guys. So you can tell a bunch of them to stay home. I remember telling Jonas, yeah, just, you and whoever, maybe 1 or 2 other people, that's fine. When there's 3 guys, you can't tell them to leave 1 guy at home. That's just not nice. So I'm going to head out of here, and Riley Jabour is going to take the lead on this one. So if you want to start our introduction, and I'll head out, and the guys will head in.
Cool. Here we go. Alex Lefty Amy, Harrison Stewart Juby, and Sean Patterson started their journey as Oakridge Ave in 2013, and like many local groups, they earned their chops and honed their upbeat indie rock sound playing in the Kingston bar circuit. In a short time, the band produced an album and an EP, and before long, they took their music on the road, taking in the experiences and sounds along the way in preparation for their next record. Jump ahead to summer 2018, thanks to a lucky opening slot at Wolf Island Music Festival, the band met Ian Burton, the musician and producer behind several famous Canadian bands, including the Weakerlands, Skydiggers, and Come On. Blurton signed on as a producer for Oakridge Avenue's sophomore record, and the resulting album is their most dynamic yet, incorporating new sounds and textures into their music while still staying true to their personalities and sound. Oakridge Avenue, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
So, first questions first. Oakridge Ave or Oakridge Avenue? Do you have a preferred nomenclature for the band?
I think most people say Ave because that's the way it's written. But I mean, I don't correct anyone if they say Avenue. It's either or.
So let's take it from the start. How did you guys get together? How did Oakridge Ave start?
Why are you guys looking at me all the time? Well, I'm not the one to answer this because I actually wasn't there right at the beginning. But I suppose, I can sort of piece it
Sean's
together.
still the new guy, I guess, if you were talking about it in that terms. But I guess I'm the oldest member, so we've been through different lineups over the past 5, 6, 7 years, I guess, maybe. I started out with me and a different guitar player, just writing songs and playing tunes in the basement on Oakridge Ave. Made a little EP demo kind of thing when we were at the end of high school, and then started playing some live shows. And then next one, Alex was brought in to cover for one night, and then he's still here 5 years later. And then fast forward 2 years, maybe a year and a half, and then we brought in Sean, and then we played together as a foursome for, I guess, 3 years, and then it's been almost 2 years now. I guess just a year and a half we've been the trio that we are now, this lineup, yeah.
So you are obviously a Kingston band, and a very Kingston band, because there is a Oakridge Ave in Kingston. Was that a conscious effort to pay some kind of tribute to a street that has a particular tie to all you guys?
Definitely, yeah. When the band first started, we just needed a name for a poster kind of thing, and we wanted to think of something that represented what we wanted to do, maybe, I guess. Something that was important to us was, and we chose that street name because, it's a part of Kingston, and we love Kingston. We love being from Kingston. We love telling everybody we're from Kingston. And we had such good times growing up on Oakridge Avenue, writing music and hanging out with friends, and we wanted that aspect to be in the band as well, so we just thought it was a perfect fit. So Alex wasn't really involved in those days, but Sean did sort of live on Oakridge Avenue because it continues on to Gibson Ave. So it's still the same
That's
street.
where I lived all through high school. So
so Sean was just around the corner
couple
while
hundred
we
yards
were
away.
making all these memories. So definitely he was really conscious in the choice. Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about geography, you guys did an Eastern Canada tour last summer. What was that experience like? I always find when a band does the East Coast, it makes such a strong bonding experience for some reason, and I've never understood why.
You could say that. Yeah. No,
It makes it sound bad. We had a great time.
No, I know. I'm being flippant. It actually was a really good experience. It kind of came out of a bit of a funny, sort of awkward start to 2018. We had met an agent who was going to put together this tour for us, and basically he got as far as giving us a big list of contacts on the East Coast, and then he decided that he didn't want to be an agent. So we were like, okay, well, we're sort of 10% there. We may as well keep going, and we ended up booking the entire thing on our own, which was, any other touring musicians, especially if they've done the DIY thing before, will understand a ludicrous amount of work, but well worth it, really. We basically just sort of sanctioned off 2.5 weeks of the summer and said, this is where we're going. We get as many dates out there as we can, and we're just going to make the route work whichever way it works. And it probably wouldn't have been the most ideal route if you were to map it out, but it worked. We had a comfy van. We had a lot of cheese curds and meat sticks and bottles of water and no air conditioning. So pretty much living the dream.
I can smell the van already.
In the heat wave too. Yeah. Anyway, no, it was really good fun. We played everywhere from Montreal to Charlottetown to Cape Breton, Halifax, Moncton. It was really a fun experience, and I think pretty bonding, and it really does do something to your live playing when you're playing every other day. With no excuses. You're there. You need to play for sometimes up to 3.5 hours, and you just sort of deliver. And it was a lot of fun.
What would you say is the biggest difference between playing to a hometown crowd in Kingston and then playing to any of these East Coast cities like Moncton or Halifax or wherever?
I'd say you got to impress them a little bit right off the bat. If you don't rock it out of the first 3 songs, you're going to lose the crowd. Whereas here, Kingston, definitely they give you a little bit of leeway. they'll let you warm up and get into your groove. But out there, if you're not on it right out of the gates,
they lose interest fast. Yeah. And number of people. It's harder to, well, you're driving somewhere that no one knows who you are. They don't even know what city you're from in Ontario. So it's hard to drive 12 hours from Charlottetown and then do any sort of promoting for yourself when no one knows who you are. You just have to sort of, like Alex said, win the crowd over right off the bat. It was a tough draw in Charlottetown, but I'd say it was like, that was my most fun I had, I think, on the entire tour. It's a great city. It reminded me a lot of Kingston. We played a great show, and it wasn't the best turnout.
And that was our sort of our first look at Ian Burton, too, because he had a bunch of posters on their walls.
He did. There were a lot of Change of Heart and Come On posters at Bama's Lounge.
Bubba's Lounge, they put up the posters of the big shows that they've had over the years. So there's, Joel Plaskett and Matt Mays plastered everywhere. And then, like Harrison said, there's Come On there. And we were like, oh, look, Ian Burton. Oh, there he is again. Oh, look who's there. Like,
Yeah.
This was before we'd even met the guy. We were just like big fans, sort of the pipe dream kind of producer. But
Well, that's a
what was
perfect
it, like
segue.
A month or so later when
There we go. Good tee up.
Yeah, so you guys
There
come
you go.
back to Kingston. You're on the Wolf Island Music Fest lineup. And how does that lead into you guys meeting Ian Burton?
Well, he was playing guitar for Kate Boothman, who was on right after us. I think we knew that like only on the day of.
I sort of found that out the day before and was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is pretty cool. Ian Burton's playing with so-and-so. Maybe we should try and, like, talk to him.
It was pretty serendipitous
just,
because like weeks
randomly
before
bump into him.
we were thinking, okay, well, we got to make another record. We want to find a producer. What's our sort of list look like? What are our top 5 people? And he was number 1, and we had no prospect of being able to meet him face to face, let alone even have him respond to us. But luckily enough, he was there. When he finished his set, we basically walked over and played it off as if we didn't know that he was a producer and that we really wanted him to produce a record. And we were just like, hey, Ian, so that was a really cool set. We're big fans of yours. Like, yeah, we're making a record. Do you do any production? It was in hindsight pretty pitiful, but also at the same time we were just sitting there going, oh my God, this guy's like played on so many great albums and with so many amazing people. But yeah, he was interested enough, and I hope impressed enough from the little he saw of us at our set there, that he agreed to listen to more of our stuff and said okay.
So let's talk about, you guys went from, like you said, kind of a DIY band to all of a sudden you've got your top of your list dream producer working with you on your new album. How did that change the dynamic? What changed for you guys in there?
Well, immediately we had to get a little bit more critical of our own songwriting and our own process for making records. And that was mainly just, we went up for like 2 days to do pre-production in Toronto with Ian, a good 3 or 4 weeks before we actually tracked the record. And he basically just had us play through the songs like half a dozen times a piece, twice, like 2 full days. And then he sort of went through little changes he thought would improve the songs, cut things out, added things in, and really just sort of worked us to the bone to get the best out of the songs and out of us as players. And that was really cool because in the past, when you're sort of left to your own devices or you're only working with, say, an engineer or just someone who happens to have a studio, they kind of just let you run amok and do whatever you want. And that was a lot of fun in the past, but it was nice to really have someone sort of spurring us on in a direction that he knew would be conducive to our sound and dynamic and whatnot. So that was the big difference, I think.
And when you're working with someone like that, of that caliber, you're 100% into the project, and you know that everything he's saying, you trust. So if he says, I don't like that verse, I think you can do better, rewrite those lyrics. You don't get discouraged. You just say, okay, yeah, all right, I'll do it. And then you do it. And then once you get pushed to that sort of extent, you
get comfortable with it.
You do get comfortable, and then you find yourself you don't get stuck. You're like, oh, I can write this out in like 30 minutes, or I can change this guitar part in 5 seconds. You just sort of work through it, and then you trust the process, and then you know eventually it's gonna pay out. What?
Trust the process.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it was.
Thanks, Joel.
It's good to say, though, because that was going to be my next question, is going into the studio with such a huge name as a producer, is there that intimidation factor before you get to that area?
100%.
Yeah.
I was terrified to play anything.
Yeah,
And I didn't get a nap, so it was
I think we're also downplaying Ian's ability to make us feel comfortable too. Like he wasn't like, you know, a Nazi in the corner, but like with the production, he was very easy to talk to, and I think the most exciting and rewarding thing that any of us experienced while we were doing that was to have him suggest something, sort of. It's weird. He would sort of make suggestions that weren't really clear or necessarily obvious what he was talking about, and then you try and interpret it, and you do something new, and you just take a stab at the next take, and he would just be like, "Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking," and that was the most satisfying thing in the whole process. When you were able to bring some element of his vision of what he's hearing into reality, that was really cool.
Kingston's been this hotbed of talent that's kind of been blowing up on a bigger stage lately with bands like the Glorious Sons and Cazador and The Wilderness, and people are pegging you as kind of the next in line to get that big spotlight put on you. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, thank you, first of all. I mean, that's really cool to hear. No, that feels great. Those are all fantastic bands, and we have a lot of more personal relationships with other guys in those bands as well, and just watching their trajectory and hearing their stories from touring and recording and stuff, it's very cool to be able to have experiences of our own that are of a piece with that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what more to say. It's just exciting. We're just so focused on grinding it out and taking the necessary steps, and we haven't really stopped to smell the flowers with regards to, you know, feeling like we've made it anywhere in particular yet, but we're excited for people to hear all this stuff.
So we spoke to Brian from Brian's Record Option about how the community came together to help bring his store back, but you guys had help from the community with a crowdfunding campaign of your own. Let's talk about that.
This record literally would not exist without the people who supported us on that campaign. So we've said it a couple times before. I don't know if we can say it enough, but to anyone who's listening who supported us on that, we have to say an honest, sincere thank you for everything you contributed, because I don't know where we would be right now if we didn't have that support. So, and not only monetarily, well, that was a huge part of it, just the moral support from the community coming in to help us, and everybody just getting excited to hear everything and spurring us on was really quite something.
Overwhelming. Yeah, very appreciative, for sure.
What are some of your favorite venues to play in Kingston? What is number one for you guys?
the Toucan. It's home ground.
Yeah, it's home base for us for a lot of things, not just playing or drinking, but it's just been a part of us, our band from the start. Even when, Sean wasn't in the band, even when Alex wasn't in the band, it was where we went and saw all our favorite bands play. It's where we would go just to communicate with other musicians in Kingston, and then it eventually became our favorite place to play in the city. And then it still is that to this day. On the weekend we'll go see whoever's playing. We'll go hear Goldwing on a Monday, and we'll just go to talk to other musician friends. Like when we came back from the record, I went right to the Toucan and wanted to talk to all the other musicians in the bar about the experience and everything, and how excited I was. And that's so the Toucan for sure is our number one. Yeah.
All right, my last question for you guys then. Any advice for aspiring musicians?
Save up.
Well, that's dark.
Gosh.
Maybe we'll start with a different answer.
No, like sorry, let me quantify that.
Jesus.
Like save up for, to go record and actually be able to afford to put the work in and not put yourself in debt.
I think we can do a little better than that. Get yourself
the money guy.
a group of friends like I have here.
Yeah.
And then just let your love of music wander, and you'll come up with good stuff.
Yeah.
Just if you can hang out with your bandmates away from band practice or away from gigs, it'll make everything so much easier. Creating music, listening to music, appreciating music, it just touring especially, it makes everything that much easier when your two best friends are up there with you the whole time. You gotta have fun too. I always stress that to the guys when we play a live show, and with these two it's always fun.
Well, thanks again for coming in. Oakridge Avenue, the title track off your new album, Endless Nights.
Now I can show you why can say for me, and all this wonder in his eyes, bitten by the wind in open skies, that the truth I see brings tears to my eyes. Soon you'll find you came too close, flying high, feeling
May 30th at the Mansion, Lowest of the Low returns to Kingston. It's going to be a great show. And joining me on the phone right now, Ron Hawkins from Lowest of the Low. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm great. How are you?
I am excellent. It's been a little while since you've been in Kingston. Was it about, I guess, just about a year ago now was the last Lowest of the Low show in Kingston. Am I right?
Yeah, I think also at the Mansion House with our friends in the band called The Discarded.
So 2 shows in just about a year or so at the Mansion. Is there anything about that venue or about Kingston in particular that keeps you coming back?
Oh yeah, I mean Kingston factors hugely into our story because we used to go and play the Toucan, and we really sort of came back quite regularly and built a real grassroots crowd there.
Have you had a chance to check out the Toucan since they finally changed the carpet in there?
No, I have not. I think the last time I was at the Toucan was maybe, I'm going to say, a year and a half ago. I came to do the film festival, and we went up there afterwards, and I will admit to not remembering leaving. So
it's one of those places. It's got that magic vibe to it where sometimes you don't remember how you get home, but you just do.
Yeah, I always remember arriving, but I never remember leaving. So.
Well, it's good that you made it back there, and somewhere out there, I think when they took the carpet out, they auctioned off chunks of it. So somebody has got to have some original Toucan carpet that possibly contains beers spilled at a very early Lowest of the Low show.
Oh, I'm sure, yes. Not just beer, I'm sure, but whatever there may be.
Yes, lots of different things absorbed into that carpet. So May 30th is the show here in Kingston at the Mansion, and then the very next day, May 31st, your new album Agit Pop dropping. And to kind of paraphrase you on this, you said that it's been a while since you've felt the need to write political songs with a capital P. Do you kind of want to expand on how that plays into the theme of the album?
Yeah, because I mean, and the reason I say that is because my 2 bands before Lowest of the Low, which I was in with David Alexander, the drummer in the Low, was Popular Front and Social Insecurity, and both of those bands were sort of punk rock bands with big political, capital P political songs. And for whatever reason, when we started Lowest of the Low, I struck on this kind of bringing it closer to home kind of thing and embedding the political ideas in personal stories with people, and that seemed to really strike a chord with people. And I sort of written in that way for a couple of decades, and then over the last 2 years, I just got sort of so frustrated and angry with once again seeing like things as ridiculous as fascism on the rise in the streets. Not hiding anywhere, but kind of calling itself what it is, and all the hate that's out there. That I started to, as I said, hit caps lock on that P again, and sort of get back into the bigger issues, talking about the macro issues, It's interesting that you mentioned that because I've seen a lot of discussion online about some people saying, where is the anger anymore in music about politics? Everybody just seems so not apathetic, but almost kind of run into the ground where people don't have the energy anymore to address it that we once did with more political bands. And do you feel the same? Do you feel that there needs to be more of this in music again, that it's hidden away for some reason now? Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's out there, like it always has. You know, you can find it, but it's like, as you're saying, it's not like it's on the surface. And you would think that with things getting worse, or seemingly getting worse. I mean, I'm sure that social media puts a magnifying glass on everything, and maybe it looks bigger than it is. But I mean, you know, I for one have all kinds of energy for it, and it harkens back, I think, to, we keep going back to our staple bands that we grew up with, like The Clash and Billy Bragg and people like that, who had, you know, if anything, had nothing but endless energy to kind of fight this stuff and talk about it. And I have to think of that famous. I mean, I love David Lee Roth for this, but you know, the US Festival where The Clash opened, and you know, of course, I'm fully on the side of The Clash and getting involved in the politics of music. But David Lee Roth going, you know, those guys gotta remember, man, you can't take life so seriously. So I think of that all the time, and I laugh because it's like, you know, good on you, Diamond Dave, but you know, people got to be energized and they got to change things, right?
That's very well put. With the new album dropping the day after you're in Kingston, I'm sure you are very excited to be able to play some of those songs for the first time in the city.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how excited I am. I mean, we always love the most recent record, always looms large, and you're always very excited about it. But this one is really special, and I feel it's weird for me to say that, but I mean, it's a double gatefold vinyl, 14 song, I think very, very concise and consistent document about how we feel as a band and what we feel, you know, we need to help build a community and a village of people that are willing to kind of take on some of these big issues. And we feel super excited about it. And, you know, again, it kind of harkens back to some of the formative types of music. There's some ska on it. There's a lot of sort of grooving kind of punk rock soul stuff on it. And we're just really excited to get on the stage and play it.
You mentioned the Gatefold vinyl, and I'm really loving the artwork inside. It appears to just be two people literally fighting, like in a combat sport sort of situation. Is there a story behind how you arrived or chose that artwork?
Yeah, you know, I was kicking around ideas, and I thought, well, we've got this opportunity to have this sort of gatefold, centerfold, you know, like we got to put something in there that's powerful. And I was looking at some things, like I used to live in Kensington Market in Toronto for a long time, and there were a lot of graffiti artists who, you know, I would go and just hang in the street with them while they did their art. There's a few of them that, you know, we were thinking about, maybe we'll get a cityscape in there, or we'll get some kind of a protesty, Banksy kind of graffiti thing happening. And then our friend Catherine McRae turned us on to this guy, Ed Baptista, who does wrestling paintings. And he had this wrestling painting that said strike on it, on the side of it, and I was like, holy crap, like it just seemed to, you know, it's almost like we had commissioned him to do that. And so once we saw it, was like, you know, this is perfect. It's so sort of thematically consistent with what's on the record, and it's got, you know, and as you know by seeing it, it's got a great sort of visceral, gestural energy, like the brush strokes and everything. It's not it's not hyper realistic, but it's very, the gestures are all there, you know?
Yeah, totally. Really looking forward to the new album dropping, and cannot wait for Lowest of the Low at the Mansion in Kingston, May 30th. Ron, thanks for taking the time out of your day to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, I'm back.
I'm still here.
Yeah, let's talk about some shows.
Okay.
May 4th is the Homegrown Live Music Festival. Music all over downtown. Go check it out.
May 9th, Matt Anderson and the Mellow Tones at the Grand Theater.
May 10th, also at the Grand Theater, Moon vs. Sun. That's Rain Maida and Chantal Kreviazek.
May 12th, Orchestra Kingston and the Quinty Symphony Joint Concert at the Isabel.
May 17th, the Tone Cats at Little Texas.
May 19th, Sharon Bram and Friends, the Farewell Tour at the Grand Theater.
May 29th, Rural Alberta Advantage at the Grad Club.
May 30th, Lowest of the Low at the Mansion, and we will be giving away a pair of tickets to the Lowest of the Low show. Follow us on Instagram for your chance to win.
Worth noting that this month's musical guests, Oakridge Avenue, will be opening that show, and they're playing a couple nights later at the Toucan, June 1st.
June 5th, Heart Attack Kids at the Mansion.
June 11th, Corey Hart and Glass Tiger at the Leon Center.
One time I stole a whole bunch of vodka from Glass Tiger.
Please explain.
So when I lived in London, I was hosting this New Year's bash thing at their big park in downtown. And Glass Tiger was headlining. Because it was New Year's Eve, I wanted to have a drink, but because I was hosting this thing, I was like on stage every once in a while introducing the other acts until Glass Tiger went on. So Glass Tiger goes on, and the co-host I had, who was much more experienced at this than I was, she went, well, I haven't had a drink all night. You want to go see what's in their green room? And so we went up, and like they had a decent rider there, so like a couple big bottles of Grey Goose, and we each just filled a solo cup full of vodka and then just went backstage and we're drinking it. But we forgot that at midnight, it wasn't quite midnight yet, at midnight they wanted us to come out and like sing Auld Lang Syne with them for New Year's, and by then I was most of the way through a solo cup full of vodka. So somewhere out there, someone has to have on their PVR drunk Riley Jabour just flailing around on stage in front of Glass Tiger on New Year's Eve.
You have the best stories.
Thank you.
And June 15th, the Great Lakes Swimmers are at the
Glad Club. It's so happy there.
Festivals. Lots of festivals coming up. It's festival season. June 8th, YGK Craft Beer Fest.
Tickets available now.
Yes.
June 19th to 23rd, Skeleton Park Arts Festival.
August 10th to 11th, Wolf Island Music Festival.
August 19th, Back to the Farm. Tickets available now, and they're going fast.
August 22nd, Limestone City Blues Festival. And a reminder that we're going to be doing a special show about all these festivals, so watch for that.
Live music is every Monday at the Toucan.
Tuesdays are open mic night at Musiki and jazz night at Olivea.
Wednesday is open mic night at the Rose and Crown with Tom Savage.
And Friday, open mic with Scotty at Spearhead.
For details on these events and others, along with lots of other things to do, places to eat, and places to stay in Kingston, check out visitkingston.ca.
Thanks to social networks and music streaming, anyone can release music to the world at any time. So to stand out in the crowd, it helps to have something eye-catching. Having already found success in videography and photography, Tanya Trombetta and Céline Klein decided to combine their craft with their mutual love for music, and from that collaboration came Velours Sessions, a bilingual video and photo production company focused on creating quality content specifically for working artists. Through their work, they've experienced firsthand the challenges of making a living in the arts today. And Tanya and Céline designed Velours services to the needs of musicians who are out hustling their music. Tanya, Céline, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So we'll do the predictable thing, and we'll start from the beginning. How did the two of you meet, and how did you decide to do this, and why now?
I met Laura, another French girl, at Musiki one day, and she works for the Francophone Center where I work now too. And one day she just told me, "Oh, Céline, I met a filmmaker, a girl, and she speaks French too. You absolutely have to meet her." Blah blah. And Tanya just came at the Francophone happy hour, and
yeah, and then it just kind of sort of happened through there. Like we met and we like instantly were like, "Yep, let's do stuff together." You're new to Canada. I don't know very many other female videographers. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've been tight ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. We met somewhere and now we're friends.
Yeah. Thanks to another French girl.
Yeah, the French community's tight here. It's small.
We ask a lot of bands what their favorite venues are to perform in, but what are some of your favorite venues you've shot in for video or photo content in Kingston?
Brooklyn was pretty cool. I really like to shoot at the Brooklyn. It just, I think almost every venues are good to us. The only thing we'll always need is a good light, and that's
lighting is a nightmare.
Yeah, so especially for bands in a bar when it's too dark. Like so many times, I filmed some friends, and at the end the footage is just terrible because there were not enough light. And if I put too much ISO on my image, like I will just burn it and it will be disgusting. So
that's something, just reverting quickly back to the other question, is that I think that with the norm, with video becoming the norm, I think establishments are going to start to consider that as a possibility. So when we show up to a venue, we'll show up a bit earlier, we'll get our sound figured out, get our lighting figured out, and we'll talk to the lighting tech, and they'll actually listen to us and be like, what can we do to make this easier for you? What colors can we use? Where can we put our lights? So I think that as bands who come in and are bringing in clientele themselves, I think the venues are going to start to accommodate that potential better, the potential for video, potential for photo, because we're starting to get there now. There's still a few spots in Kingston where that is not a consideration at all. It's like you're not supposed to see them, just hear them. But it's becoming better.
Well, I wanted to talk about that too, some of the challenges of shooting live music, because I was at the Wilderness show, which the two of you shot, and there was like 12 guys on the stage at one point, and I saw you navigating around them, which you did extremely well. Yeah. You were like
that's
Spider-Man.
Weddings got me that.
Yeah, this last song was terrible. Seriously, I was just between the stage and the barrier, and I was trying to film. I think it was Jonas. He was super close to the crowd, and my head was just on the guitar of the guitarist because he came at the front too, and I was like, "Oh my god, I don't know where to film now." But it was cool because like the wilderness were okay for us to go on stage. So
Most bands
it
are.
was really cool to have good footage because we could go on stage. But for example, a month ago we had a shoot and there were no barriers. Or like there was a small barrier but not space for us.
We had a foot. Here is your home for the next 8 hours.
So
you live in this space.
Yeah, and the footage is not good at the moment because everybody was pushing us. And even if we're trying to move him, like, please let me move.
We had a dual,
like,
we had a dual camera
people
setup.
don't care. They're like, oh, they're annoying. They're with cameras. Like, oh, for the wilderness, I was on this platform on the barrier for the first song, and like this girl behind me was like, oh my god, she's annoying. But sorry, I have no choice. Like, I have to be here right now. So it's hard to film bands if the crowd is not nice with us.
I don't care if the crowd's not nice. The band just has to be on board. The crowd wants to be the crowd, be the crowd. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're really tiny people. Like, on the scale of people, we're small people.
Don't take up too much
So
space.
we're not taking up a lot of space. We're never staying in one place for too long. We're both on a stationary setup, so we're not tripoding in the middle of the room. We're moving on stabilizers and whatnot. And so if she's angry that my left thigh is in front of her view of the guitarist for 2 seconds, I'm sorry, but like, deal, right?
Yeah.
It's the music. Like, we want to know that the musicians are good for it. So some musicians, like, we had a singer recently who was just like, if you put the camera too close to my face, I'm going to forget all my lyrics. It's like, well, how close is close though? Like, how close can we go? And we found we had to keep quite a distance from him.
Actually, I asked him at the end. He said it was perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At the end, but the whole time
Yeah.
we didn't know. So
No,
things like that
yeah.
is like, hey, you want video done, and we'd love to work with you, but you have to understand that if your limitations make it harder for us to do our job, we can't give you the product that you want either. So working in live shoots, we're dealing with the band's requirements, their personal space requirements, which, sorry to break it to you, there can't really be a whole lot if you want it to be good. And then also mitigating the opinions within the crowd. Like when we shot an event at Trinity recently, it was a 2-camera shoot, and there were points when both of us were physically knocked over to the ground at the same time where there was no footage to use because people just did not care.
Yeah,
They were
but
just-
just one bed was nice. One bed was said at the moment, oh, this song is going to be filmed. Please be nice. Like, there will be cameras around you.
Thank you for acknowledging us. Yay! Like, that was great. And then that was the one that was like the 3 minutes where we just didn't get punched in the face.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That
It's
was
rough
cool.
out there.
It isn't usually, though. It isn't usually, but we're learning things like, okay, if we're going to be shooting like an event, like a Queen's event or something like that, we have to speak with tech ahead of time to ensure that there is barrier space for us. So this is the learning curve for us too. Figuring out what are we even supposed to ask for, and our contracts are basic, like the intellectual property portion is basic, but the what do we need on site is something that we are still learning to ask for. We're learning quickly because they hurt. But yeah, that's a struggle, kind of.
How does a band know when it's time to get a video shot?
I think it depends on the insight of the musician themselves. I think musicians who recognize that being a musician is like being an entrepreneur, they get on that stuff a lot faster. So they'll be like, okay, we are a product. Our sound is a product. We're performers. Whenever they adopt that mindset, that's when it happens. Some people
They're
get
really trying to
Yeah,
work
that's
really
what I'm worried about. Yeah, like
Some bands just a little like they're not quite tight enough yet that like you guys aren't quite in the position where the video is going to do you justice.
Mm-hmm.
That's something they have to come to like the terms on themselves.
For example, when they need some really good videos to apply for some grant or festival, like at this moment they need a good video because they need to show people how they are on stage. But if they are not yet at this moment of their career to apply for grants, and I don't know.
That's one of the big ones that we'll work with is musicians who have never done video before, but they need it for like a grant application or a festival application or something like that. And they're like, we have never done this before. What do we do? In that point, they would be ready if they're willing to have the conversation about what has to happen to do that. But I think if you feel like you want people to listen to you, like if you're still too nervous to play with a camera in front of you, then you're not ready for video.
Is there a different approach to shooting a band who wants a video just for their social media or whatever versus when they want a video for a festival application or if they're applying for a factor grant or something like that?
Yeah, they will be more careful. I think they will ask more things like we need some close shot of that. And they will be just maybe more careful on stage to be maybe, I don't know, like less stupid or don't say too many bad things on stage. Like, I don't know.
We also have a check. So often when it's a grant application, there's a checklist for us to follow as a videographer.
Yeah.
So like obviously they have their requirement to like sound good, be cool. But for us, it's like we have to meet all of those speculations as well, which obviously are not overly daunting, but it changes a little bit. Whereas if they just wanted to create a video for their social media, let's go wild. Let's do whatever. Let's put special effects. Let's like do cool things. Not that we usually do, but we have a lot more creative liberty than we would with a lot of festival applications. They just want to know what you sound like. They don't want to they don't want to think that you've tweaked it too much and that this is false advertising. Often it's just, what do you sound like? What do you look like? So they're not, I don't know, I'd say they can be a little more dry, but much more effective. Social media is a lot more fun because social media is a chance for brands to build themselves as a business or as like a personality. And video is an amazing way to do that. Like the Wilderness is getting really creative. They had like a cooking episode. But like, let's cook with the Wilderness. Like, that's so smart. And I think that's what musicians and entrepreneurs and people, I think, are just starting to realize, is that video is not just, hi, I'm Tanya, I'm a videographer. It's like, how can you creatively display who you are? It doesn't have to be a dry business video. It can be a really dorky cooking episode.
I was watching some of your stuff you did with the Wilderness, and there was a great one you did just in a parking lot in Kingston. And there's lots of really cool little spots like that in Kingston that maybe you don't traditionally imagine as somewhere that music can be played, but there's all these amazing sites and even tourist locations in Kingston.
It was really cool. Nick, the saxophonist, had the idea. He just came to me like, Céline, well, like we with the guys, we want to do one Mic One Take, and then like the other day I was just leaving Queens by night, and this parking, oh my god, like the reverb is amazing at this time. So we just waited for midnight and we went there, and we just like, I don't know how many times we played the song, but it was just, yeah, it was just super cool. And these kind of things are like, I would love to do something like one Mic One Take this summer, like I don't know, on the roof maybe, and have a sound of a street, of the cars, blah blah, and we put some microphone around the band, and this kind of mood is super cool. I know it's different than live shows.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about that too, because we're talking about getting creative with these videos. Where does that come from? Does that come from the two of you, or does it come from the band, or is it a collaboration?
It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
Often the band has an idea of what they want to look like and what they want, but sometimes it's a struggle about how do we accomplish that reasonably. And I think the thing we're struggling with the most right now is that a lot of the bands we're speaking with are thinking small picture in the sense they can only hire us for a live show. It's like, well, let's go shoot a one mic, one take in a parking lot at midnight. That sounds kind of cool too. So we're trying to do more work like that so that the musicians in Kingston see stuff like that. Because one mic, one take is a super cost effective, super efficient, effective
and
way.
People really like that.
And
Like,
really cool, yeah.
Yeah,
You can pull
like
it off.
they're hourly, like in terms of billable hours, it's cheap to put together. It's easy. It's a single camera. You sing it.
It's way more easier than a live show. Like the editing is almost nothing for us. Just the shoot has to be perfect.
So we're trying to push those a bit more.
Because it's a one Mic One Take, so one song 5 minutes. Like we can spend an hour doing that and do it so many times, and for sure we'll have a good one after.
Is it always live stuff, or do you do music videos as well? Like if there's a pre-recorded track, you do that sort of thing?
We would like, yeah.
You haven't yet? Or?
I have with the other company, like separately with a different company. So right now we're using some work from Creative Nest as portfolio work because it's still me. Like it's ultimately still going to be the same quality of work. Right now we are just doing a lot of live stuff. That seems to be the one thing people are seeing us at shows, and that's kind of how it's happening. So right now it's a lot of live. We were just speaking with, Smitty Kingston just reached out to us today. He wants to get a storyline video done. So people are starting to ask because the weather's getting nice. Yeah. And I'm expecting that come summertime.
Sorry, what's a storyline video?
So something cool happens. There's a story. It's like a little mini film. This is what I live for. I blew so many hours in college just watching music videos and not studying. It's ridiculous. Because you just get so wrapped up in them. These short little stories. There's a beginning, middle, and an end. And they're satisfying to watch. And you end up so entranced in the footage part that you end up just like absorbing the song anyway. I think it's a super clever way to get people to listen to your music, have good videos. So we're starting to get into those a little bit more now. We are able to do them. We have the gear and the equipment and the know-how to do them. We're just trying to find clients who are interested in moving forward on a more extensive basis to do so.
So one of the big concerns for a lot of people is going to be price. Can you give us any idea what this kind of thing costs?
So what we did is we looked at the average. So I own a corporate production company. So we looked at those rates. We're like, okay, reasonably for musicians, like those are really unrealistic rates, but for marketing departments, it's like, whatever, no issue. So that's the full-time thing. What we looked at is what are most musicians making? So we spoke with a couple. What are you making hourly to be here? And so we matched their rate. So we figured if their skill set, their time, and their performance is worth this much, then we should match them with our skill set, our equipment, and like our time as well. So what we did is we started this whole new company, and being under a new company, we aren't registered with HST yet, so we don't have to charge tax quite yet. So that's 13% off, like right there, that we're not required to charge. And then additionally, we have priced it in a way that our hourly rate is about half, if not a third, of what corporate rates would be in Kingston. However, you're getting all of your capture on equipment that is used for corporate rates. Like these cameras are shooting corporate level production, but we're going to come and use them for a third for working artists specifically because it's something that we're passionate about, something we care about. And we've also built packages that are, they're put out quickly, but they're effective. So one mic, one take. You can get a good one mic, one take for like what, $200?
Yeah.
Like a good one. That's maybe even $150 if it's a single person, whereas a corporate rate would be closer to $5 or $6. So we're kind of matching that at a third, but then we're also saying, okay, we can go as elaborate as you want it to go, but is that budget effective for you? Like, is it really worth the money? Let's see if we can simplify that. So a lot of it has been simplifying the process as much as possible, as well as bringing down the rates to accommodate that demographic.
And we try to be super flexible with every band. Like, we always ask them, what's your maximum? Like, how much can you pay for a video? And we can be flexible, like, and ask less.
Yeah, whereas corporate, it would be like, present this quote. Sorry, you're going to have to cut something off. With working artists, we'll be like, okay, really, what is your budget? What can we do within that? A lot of artists who have been on really tight budgets, we'll come in and we'll shoot for them, and then we'll give them the raw footage. Because there's someone in their group who's like taking something, you know, and they can do it. A lot of corporate companies will not release their raw footage, but we're happy to do that. So again, just like eliminating a lot of those barriers that would occur with corporate production to make it an easier interaction with musicians.
Céline, you won an award for a documentary. Please tell us about this.
Okay. I came in Quebec last year for a documentary degree in Quebec, and I had to make a documentary to finish my degree, like for the final exam. And of course, I was new in the country. I didn't know anyone, but I remember, 3 years ago, I met a guy in the street in Kingston who was playing music. He was cool. I should maybe contact him. And so I met Jonas 3 years ago at Buskers Festival. My English was so bad. But, like, I don't know, I met him during the summer. I really loved their music. It was really cool. And I just followed them for 3 years on Facebook. We didn't talk again for 3 years. And in October 2017, yes, I just text them like, hey, guy, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm in Quebec. I have to make a documentary. I know you do a lot of tour. Can I come with you on a tour? And he said, okay, when would you like to shoot? And I said probably between like February and March because my movie has to be ready for May. He said, okay, we never had done any winter tour, but okay, let's do it. We will organize a tour for you and just come with us. So I just brought a friend with me, and we just spent 10 days with them in Northern Ontario on tour in February. And I made my first documentary, so Unstoppable, about the guys. And I just won the best local short at the Kingston Canadian Film Festival.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. So the two of you doing this together, are there sort of challenges you encounter being female videographers, which is a little atypical? It's obviously not as common as the male videographers. What's that like?
Yes, we live a lot of sexism sometimes during shoot, like which when we arrive, like Tanya has really more stories than me about that.
Doing it for longer.
Yeah, but you can just see when you are a girl with a camera, like usually we'll see like, you sure you can do it? Like, you sure you can deal with equipment? Like, or for example, like that's DSLR, it's super small, but imagine like some years ago when the cameras was huge. If you were a girl, like, oh, you sure you can hold it? Are you not too weak for that? Like,
people say the most ridiculous things sometimes right to your face. So when I work for Creative Nest, we're going to do it for the Velours too, but our shirts are branded. So it says like the company name, it says like the videographer across the back. So I show up to this location, I've got this giant camera bag with like 2 tripods, and I got videographer like on my shirt, and I come like walking in and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, when's your camera guy coming? Like, whenever I would do trade shows, often my PA or my assistant for the day would be a dude, and no one would shake my hand first. no one would walk up to me first. I have never actually been approached first at the trade show. Someone will always go and shake his hand first and ask him some question that he has no clue to answer. And they'll be like, oh, and they'll act super surprised, right?
You need to get him the branded shirt that just says, I don't work here.
I'm not the videographer.
Well, it's amazing because I've seen you wearing those videographer shirts for years. It's white text, plain white text over a black shirt, and you're carrying gear and people still don't get it.
Or the best, is that your camera?
Oh my God, someone has
Yes,
tried, yes.
asshole, it is my camera. No, it's not my brother. It's not my boyfriend's. I'm not borrowing it from school. I've never, and like I've talked to some like male colleagues about this, and they don't even believe our stories sometimes. Like they don't even believe us sometimes. Anyway.
Well, to try to turn this onto like a bit of a positive note.
Oh yeah, okay. It's not all shit. It's
No. It's all shit. But I mean, it's maybe becoming less shit. Women in music are having a bigger moment than they've had in a long time. Bands like The Beaches and Cayentana is one of my favorite bands, and all of this. Women are writing better music than men right now. Point blank. It's very interesting and it's very good. Do you see the wave of female musicians being taken more seriously than ever before, helping your situation, hopefully?
So I graduated from high school in 2010, so like that 2005 to 2010 era. And it was like a big deal if a band had a female singer. Now it's not a big deal anymore. It's like, okay, there's a lead singer who's a girl. Like it doesn't occur to people the same way. And that's what we're hoping to start seeing with videography too, is that like it's not weird. It's like, oh, there's a girl working the camera. It's like, no, that it's eventually going to become a point where it's not a weird thing anymore. But as far as music goes, yeah, you're right. There's so many, like if you go on Spotify, open up your Spotify, your suggestions, it's just thumbnails. It's all girls.
Yeah.
It's all women in the thumbnails. And I don't think that's an on purpose thing. I think it's just like the reality representation. They're coming out more, which is awesome. And that makes it easier for us too. Like working with other women it's going to be easier. It's going to be easier at the end of the day. Not to say every guy is going to give us a problem, but we will likely have less of those particular issues with women. So yeah, no, I'm excited to see it, especially with what we're doing.
So if someone's looking to get a video shot, how do they get in contact with you?
They can contact us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, Velours Sessions. We also have an Instagram, Velours Sessions. And if you're looking for a business card, you can find a lot at Musicy. With our email address.
We are taped to the bar at Musicy.
Yeah, we are taped on the counter.
So yeah, find us.
No, you two are doing great work, and we look forward to seeing more. So, Tanya, Céline, thank you for coming in today.
Thanks you for
having us.
This has been Kingston Live for May 2019. We encourage you to rate us on your listening platform of choice and subscribe where possible. Kingston Live was recorded in Kingston at Titan Sound. Hosted by John Sanfilippo and Riley Jabour. Writing and research by Peter Sanfilippo. Executive producer Rob Howard. A big thanks to the support of our friends at Tourism Kingston, who helped make this podcast possible. Check out the latest live music listings and many other experiences the city has to offer at visitkingston.ca. We'd love to hear from you. Email your thoughts, ideas, comments to podcast@kingstonlive.ca.